안녕하세요. 해외 현장스케치 친구입니다. 오늘은 기후변화 시대에 살아가는 우리가 꼭 주목해야 할 엄청난 프로젝트 하나를 소개시켜 드리겠습니다. 이 프로젝트는 아프리카 사헬 지역에서 진행되고 있습니다. 사헬은 사하라 사막 바로 아래 사막과 초원이 맞닿은 경계 지대를 의미합니다. 요즘 여기서 심각한 문제가 생기고 있습니다. 바로 사막화죠. 지구 온난화로 가뭄은 더 심해지고 인구 증가로 농지와 숲은 계속 파괴되고 있습니다. 유엔 산하의 IPCC 보고에 따르면 2021년부터 2040년 사이 사헬 지역의 평균 기온은 약 2도 상승할 거라고 합니다. 지구 평균 상승보다 무려 1.5배 빠른 속도죠. 쉽게 말해서 사헬은 지금 지구 기후 위기의 최전선에 놓여 있는 지역이라 할 수 있겠습니다.
Great Green Wall is the possibility of transforming desert lands, degraded lands into food baskets.
아프리카 대륙을 가로지르듯 서쪽 세네갈부터 동쪽 지부티까지 약 8,000km, 총 11개국에 걸쳐 거대한 수비띠를 조성하는 것입니다. 단순히 나무만 심는 게 아니고 토양 복원, 식량 안보, 생계 지원, 교육까지 함께 이어지는 종합적인 생태 사회 재건 프로젝트라 할 수 있겠습니다. 자, 그럼 여러분은 여기서 궁금해하실 겁니다. 과연 이 프로젝트가 효과가 있는가? 누가 하고 있는 것인가? 그래서 오늘 소개시켜드릴 내용은 WFP와 퍼마커처 전문가인 앤드류 밀슨 씨가 협업으로 제작한 현장 이야기입니다.
Welcome to one of the largest scale land restoration projects on the planet. Before this work, people relied on food aid just to survive. But 10 years ago, a vast barren wasteland began to transform, and now 500,000 people are feeding themselves from this land. So could this work be the key to ending hunger in Africa and beyond? Let's find out. I'm traveling in the Sahel of Africa with the largest humanitarian agency on Earth, the United Nations World Food Program, the first responders to hunger in war zones and disasters. But what I came here to see is the mind-blowing work they're doing to actually solve hunger by fixing the underlying problem. We are here in Niger, Africa, known as Niger. In this nearly 5 square mile block of land restoration, 5 different villages planted about 100,000 trees, put in about 20 tons of grass seed, and we can see the land is starting to come back to life. But will the plants survive? The key is to make sure they get enough water. But that's not easy to do in a desert because this region has what's called the drought flood cycle. We have 9 dry months. The land becomes parched. And when the rains finally do come, the rain can't soak in. And it rushes down and it creates flooding in lowlands. But in the Sahel, we find an age-old water harvesting structure called the half moon. This simple structure has all of this capacity to store this water and hold this water until the water soaks down into the ground. There are a lot of different variations on these half-moon structures, and which one you choose depends on what your end goal is. Are you creating a forest, or a grassland, or a millet growing area? And how well do the soils hold or drain water? But the basic idea is that the half-moon's laid out on a contour, and it's dug so it intercepts the water flowing down slope during heavy rains. There are deep pits dug inside and outside of the half-moon called zai pits, which collect organic matter that blows or flows into the pits, and ultimately they allow for the deep soakage of rainwater into the ground. Oftentimes a tree is planted, as well as grasses and other seeds that germinate with the rains. Birds and wind bring in more seeds, and the half-moon becomes a concentration point for water, nutrients, plants, and animals. The ecosystem grows, and life returns. It's astoundingly simple, but how does it work in practice? This site is just 1 year old, and this site is the same design, but 8 years old. We've got the rows of half moons with the trees planted in them, and now the trees are growing up. They're beginning to form a canopy over the ground. We see the grasses, we see the ground covered, and even now we have water in these half moons.
So here you see this half moon. This is still the water at this stage. Still harvesting a lot of water. We have different local species and a lot of grasses. It's good animal feed. This shade, this temperature, you already have 5 to 8 degrees less compared to the places that are without treatment. This is one of the best ways to improve food security, because at the end of the day, this is a food basket in the making, but also nourish the land that nourishes people.
We think of the Great Green Wall as stopping the expansion of the Sahara Desert, but it's actually so much more than that. The Great Green Wall is actually rebuilding the ecological matrix of a region. And when we start to see the effects at scale, like this large site and the 528 other Great Green Wall sites in Niger, we actually see the restoration of the ecological fabric of this region. Just within this 800-hectare site, there are 3 million cubic meters of water that have soaked into the ground here instead of running off. And 15% of that water is actually soaking into the deep aquifer and regenerating the permanent water table. The actual effects on people's lives is a very tangible thing.
Over time, the water table has risen, and there's water available, allowing for production pretty much to take place all year round. In this area where we are, this is just a 1.5 hectare market garden site, one of 9. Communities here are now able to produce crops in these gardens because they're pumping water from the ground, water that has been improved from the rising water table due to the restoration activities that have taken place elsewhere. Before this activity, 9 out of every 10 children that were tested were malnourished. What we saw earlier in the market garden, the community is able to produce a variety of diverse nutritious foods, including vegetables and fruits, which are then also used in their local diets, contributing to a better nutrition for the community and lessening malnutrition for their children and for themselves.
Over the last 5 years in Niger, an average of 3 million people per year were food insecure and needed food aid. But in that same time period, these resilience projects have gotten 500,000 people off of long-term food assistance. Let that sink in for a minute. 500,000 people are being fed from the 528 resilience projects in Niger. So this is obviously working on a lot of levels. But the big question is, how do we scale this up to the place where it can actually end regional hunger? In Niger, in the last 10 years, the World Food Program with the government and partners have restored about 300,000 hectares. When you do this type of land treatment, you're actually helping areas downstream because this water is soaking in. Then you also get this incredible wind protection effect. So for every hectare that you restore, you actually affect 3 times that amount of land. So the 300,000 hectares really is more like 900,000 hectares. Now, Niger is a huge country. The Sahel is a massive area. So this is still just a fragment of what needs to happen here, right? We're beginning to see a scale of solution that matches the scale of the problem.
En tout cas, que nos actions rentrent dans le cadre donc de ces actions de la Grande Rivière Verte.
It's basically saying that as WFP, we need to recognize that we can play a catalyst role, we can play a supporting role, but the biggest role and the biggest achievement is what actually communities are able to do by themselves. We really need to be engaged and motivated within the vision of the Great Green Wall. It means also a Great Green Wall against hunger.
Kungiya ta taimako fam ku ba da abinci ku ba da kudi talakawa su ji daɗi a wurin Allah ku sami lada Allah kiyaye